Our next session, the final session today, is a very special one. I'm delighted to be joined in discussion on cosmic clouds and the future of 3D by astrophysicist and founder member of the legendary rock band Queen, Brian May. Brian holds a PhD in astrophysics, is a world-renowned collector and publisher of stereoscopic photography, and is the author of Queen in 3D and 8 books on astronomy and stereo photography, including the recent Cosmic Clouds. He'll also be taking audience questions, so do keep those coming. Please welcome Brian May.
Hi folks, Merry Christmas. Well, this is a first for me, talking to an audience of amazing techies. I'm used to talking to a 3D audience, and we have quite a nice little 3D community going on Instagram. If you want to find out what I'm doing, Instagram is the place. And also, if you want to find out about 3D after I've gone, go to the London Stereoscopic Company, which is londonstereo.com, and it's all there. But I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to ramble on to you today. My title is called Cosmic Clouds and the Future of 3D. It's actually a kind of a ramble through the whole history of 3D, because if you want to know the future, you've got to know the past, right? And this is kind of groundbreaking, and I have to thank the Wired people. I read the email wrong, first of all. I thought they were just weird people, but they're actually Wired people, and they're very hip. It's great. I love what they're doing. And I was just in a green room. It's just like doing a TV show, very, very beautifully organized, and they give me a clicker so I can move through my slides without having to talk to anyone and tell them how to do it. So I'm hoping you can see me at the moment, and you can probably see my first slide very small, or if not, I think we should do that pretty soon. I think we're going to go full screen, and we are now in 3D territory. Everybody say yeah if you can see that, okay?
Yeah.
The joys of 3D, of virtual reality. Yeah, well, now I'm wondering, a lot of you, I hope, will be using your phones to see this, in which case, can you still see me? I wonder if you can see me in a little corner of the screen. This is what I have. This is the way I do it with my owl, and my phone is in the back here, and this is the way it should look for you if you've got your owls ready. This is the ideal way to watch 3D on the internet. If you haven't got that, if you're looking at this on your laptop, then make sure that the full screen double image that you're seeing now is not too big. It should be about 6 inches across. So resize your viewing screen if it's too big, because otherwise you won't be able to see this. And if you're viewing on a computer laptop, you can use the owl, but you can also use one of these lovely little mirror devices. Or if you're confident, you can free view. Now, I can't teach you to free view in 1 minute, but basically, if you're familiar with the idea of these stereo things, you come up to your computer screen and you kind of look through it. You relax your eyes and look to infinity through the screen, and the two images should float together, and you get your 3D image. It's not quite as immersive as using an owl or some other 3D device, but basically, this should get you through. Now, if you can't see any of this in 3D, I'm sorry, because some of this will be lost on you, but hopefully the excitement will still get across, because what I'm basically selling is the whole idea of stereoscopy. Stereoscopy and 3D are the same thing. Stereoscopy was invented about 1832 by Charles Wheatstone, and we'll hear from him later, hopefully. But it was rechristened 3D, 3 dimensions, short for three-dimensional imaging, in the 1950s. So this whole thing goes back a long way. It's about 150 years of stereoscopic experience. Now, I'm hoping you can see on your screens right now, if we can just dive in, something which is very hard to discern. It's actually, I'm going to tell you it's a picture of a leaf, but you still can't really tell what's going on. And I want to demonstrate, I hope we're full screen now, yeah. And I'm going to give you a minute to look at this. Once you swim the two images together, you're still going to see a flat image here, because what I've done is I've given both of your eyes the same information. Again, I'll return to that in a minute. Now I'm going to move on. This is what you would see with one eye. This is the flat image, and this is the way we're used to seeing pictures in books. They're always flat, right? Photographs are flat. That's one eye. Here's the other eye. But if we fuse the two together, Now I'm feeding your left eye one image and I'm feeding your right eye another image, and suddenly this thing springs to life. Suddenly you can see this leaf is curled up towards you. You can see there's little flakes of snow and stuff there, and the whole thing comes to life. So this is the answer to the first question. What is 3D? Why bother with 3D? Because it gives us an incredibly superior version of the world that we live in and view the whole time. So 3D is about reproducing the live experience. We take it for granted. We look around. I don't know what rooms you're in now out there. You look around, and 3D you take for granted. You put your hand in front of your face and it's very obvious where it is. But if we didn't have two eyes, this would be a lot different. So if you close one eye and do the same thing, you're not nearly as aware of the spatial content of the world around you. So I'm going to spin on. This is good enough reason for having 3D. And in everyday life, we can capture 3D in everyday objects. This is a rather beautiful flower, and the flat picture gives you some kind of idea of what it's like. This is the left eye view. This is the right eye view. And again, if we fuse them together using the 3D technology that we're using, it's just a whole different world, isn't it? Suddenly it leaps out towards you and you can see where those stamens are. You can see that the leaves are in the background, and you get a real feeling that you could crawl inside there and investigate that plant. So 3D is an incredibly powerful tool. I'm going to carry on now and move out into the outside world. Pressing this button here. Where do we go now? Here's an outside scene. This is landscape photography. And again, this is flat. If we take two pictures the distance apart of our eyes, and if I feed them to you now, we get something like this. And you can see there's a bit of 3D there. It's kind of helped a bit, but it's not very impressive. It doesn't give you a real insight into where those trees are and how far in front of us they are. So what we do is we can increase our baseline. Now, I'm going to talk about baselines a lot. The baseline between your eyes is about 2.5 inches. So normally with a stereo camera, you put your two lenses 2.5 inches apart to capture the two images. But we can extend that baseline. So if I now do that and give you two images taken about 1 foot apart, it's about 15 centimeters. Now you see we have a lot more stereoscopic content. We've increased our baseline, so the two images for our two eyes are a little bit more different, a little bit more full of content, which is varied from one eye to the other. And we can continue this theme. We're always looking for a baseline if we want to get 3D pictures. And I'm heading out into space. The moon. Okay, the moon's an awful long way away. It's 250,000 miles away. So we would need something approaching that in terms of a baseline if we were going to get a 3D picture of the moon. How could we do that? I mean, even two spots on the Earth wouldn't be far enough apart. Luckily, the moon does a thing called libration. It's in an elliptical orbit around the Earth, and so it doesn't always present quite the same face. Although we always see the same sort of man in the moon features, it actually wobbles quite a lot. So here's one lunation. Here's the next lunation. I'm going to show you them both. So it's doing it for us. It's creating a baseline for us. It's as if our eyes were 1,000,000 miles apart. And you put those two together and you get a very satisfyingly beautiful, rounded moon. And you can see some of the detail in those craters as well on the terminator line. So we're lucky when we go out into space, as I have been doing for 3D, you get presented with some great opportunities. Move on to Mars. Now, every object in the solar system and beyond rotates. That's pretty much a fact. Anything that has a rotation of 0, I have yet to see. So if you wait long enough, it'll rotate and it'll give you your baseline. Here's one view of Mars. Here's another. It's rotated a little bit. And again, we put the two together. And you get a nice 3D view of Mars, and you can see those enormous volcanoes, Olympus Mons at the bottom there, 3 times as high as Everest. So we're using our knowledge of 3D to get out there and get stereoscopic pictures of the planets and other bodies in the solar system. I've got very involved in this, and I was lucky enough to be involved in the Rosetta mission, visiting this incredible object, which we call Rosetta's Comet. for ease of access. Now, if you look at this, it looks kind of like an amorphous lump. You would never really guess what shape it was. And this is where 3D comes in very usefully again. This is one eye's view. I mean, the thing rotates. So what we did was we waited for it to rotate. Here it's rotated, you see. And then we put the two pictures together, and I hope you're getting this. I'm not hearing the oohs, but if you put the two together, suddenly it becomes very apparent what kind of exotic shape this object really is. It's like two balls stuck together, which I think is exactly what it is. It's a kind of dumbbell shape with the smaller dumbbell pointing towards us. So I had the opportunity to do this, and we're hoping to publish a book on this at some point in 3D. But this was an amazing mission to visit a comet. Thanks to my wonderful friend Matt Taylor, who's the PI of this mission, for involving me. This is another NASA mission. This is to Bennu, NASA/ESA, I should say. This is an asteroid, near-Earth asteroid, and we waited for it to rotate. You get slight problems because the illumination changes, but there are ways of dealing with that. And you can see there's a lovely rock at the bottom there, which is sticking out. This is a thing, this is only a couple of miles across. It's quite small. And it's this strange spinning top shape, which seems to be quite typical. It's a pile of rubble, really. But in mono, it looks pretty cool. But in 3D, it looks pretty amazing, I think. And we were able to go close. I'm going to skip that for a minute. We were able to go close in because there is a probe which has gone to Bennu. It's the OSIRIS-REx mission, incredible mission, again, a NASA mission, which I've been privileged to be a part of. And here we are skimming over the surface and seeing that outstanding rock, which I call pulpit rock, standing out in 3D. Again, it would be good in mono. It is, but in 3D, it's spectacular. Just going to nip back to this one. This is very, very hot off the press. This is the moment when the OSIRIS-REx probe actually touched Bennu. It went right down and touched it for 6 seconds and shot a burst of nitrogen gas, which stirred up all the rocks, and then they collected some rocks. The red line shows the exact spot where they touch, and this is just before touchdown. Again, it looks quite nice in mono, but I was asked to do this, to make this picture in 3D, and you get a feeling that you're there. Here's the collecting device on the left, and they are now speeding back to Earth with those samples of rock. So moving on from Bennu, there's something incredibly exciting for me. I was involved in a mission to Pluto. Now, Pluto was just a white dot for us when we were kids. There's nothing known about it, really, very little, except it's very cold. The New Horizons mission, under the direction of Alan Stern, took a 15-year trip, and they had only about an hour after that 15 years to record the images close up on Pluto. I was lucky enough to be in the control room when those images came back. This time the thing isn't rotating fast enough, but the probe is zooming past it, so we get our baseline. This is the picture about an hour before it was at its closest point. This is the picture when it's actually at its closest point. I'm going to show you those two again. Put them together, and you get this beautiful picture, which I was able to put together. The first picture ever close up in 3D of Pluto with that amazing kind of heart, which has now become famous. Here's the picture which was taken of Proxima Centauri against a background of stars by the New Horizons probe, which is 4 billion miles away from us. This is the picture that's taken on Earth by amateur astronomers at exactly the same moment. Here's the two pictures. And again, if you put them together, you get a very elementary kind of 3D picture, because I hope you can see Proxima Centauri stands out. So this is this really is in the Guinness Book of Records, or should be, because this is the longest baseline that anyone ever employed simultaneously to look at any object anywhere. You got a 4 billion mile baseline there. Okay, so now I'm going to say, let's move out even further. We've gone to the edges of the solar system. What if we want to do 3D pictures of a cosmic cloud, a nebula? These are the places where stars are born and where stars die. And we're looking actually at the death of a star here. And if you hadn't ever come across a 3D image or a stereoscopic image of an object like this, you would think, well, it looks like a smoke ring, right? It looks like a very flat thing, maybe a little sort of torus around the star in the middle. The star in the middle is the one that's exploded, by the way, and caused this what's called a planetary nebula. Now, what we had to do was, or what I had to do was find a way of presenting these in 3D. Luckily, I found a man way up north called Mezzavaino, and he has made a study of these things. He photographs them himself from his back garden, and he then applies scientific data to them, the known astronomical data, which is the distance of all the parts of the nebula and all the stars in the image. So he's actually creating a second image this time. There's no baseline you could possibly go to that would capture this in 3D. But he's created it, and he's altered the first image to make a second image, which gives him his baseline, a virtual baseline, and here's the result. It's quite beautiful, I think. And of course, this gives us an enormous amount more instinctive information. Now we see it's not a smoke string at all, a smoke ring. It's a kind of tunnel that we're looking down, and the tunnel just happens to be pointing towards us. So this is a very informative way of looking at nebulae. And you'll find all this in our Cosmic Clouds book. I think we showed you the cover. Here's another example. He's created these two images, puts them together, and there we have a wonderful nebula, which actually is a place where stars are being born. It's a wonderful subject, and luckily we were able to put it into a book, which I can now sell. There it is, Cosmic Clouds. I won't do too much selling because I'm going to move on now. But I'm going to move right back now to the birth of photography. Just a very, very, very quick spin through the history of stereophotography. Here's the man who first figured out how it works. He figured out that if you have two eyes, it's for a very good reason. It's because you get two different views of the universe, put them together, and you would recreate what you see in real life. He had this incredible intuition before the birth of photography, about 1832. So a few years later, along came Louis Daguerre in France and Fox Talbot in England and invented photography, one using egg yolk and silver salts, the other Daguerre using a metal plate with metal salts on it, silver salts. So this is Sir Charles Wheatstone, and he figured out what everyone in the Renaissance didn't figure out. The Renaissance, they managed to get as far as perspective, and you can see all those lines going in Brunelleschi and Leonardo's work, but they never figured out stereoscopy. Charles Wheatstone did. So all hail Charles Wheatstone. He invented this wonderful device. This is his first stereoscope, which is done by mirrors. And you put your nose in this little blip at the front there, and you look at those two mirrors right in front of you. And what you're looking at is the two images which are stuck to the plates on each end. Those are your two stereoscopic images. And at a stroke, he invented stereoscopy. He also invented, not many people know, a more compact device, but we'll see that in a minute. He didn't have photographs, so he drew his pictures, and here's one of them. There's a couple of circles here, and you can see that the big circle is much closer to us than the smaller circle because he has put those parallax differences between the two images. And if you stand back and look at them without free viewing, you can see that the little circle is to the left in the left image and to the right in the right image. So he's already making these stereoscopic drawings. And then he gets together with his friends and he says, make me stereoscopic images. So Fox Talbot and Daguerre and the early pioneers of photography followed Wheatstone's instructions, took one picture here, moved to the right, took another picture here, and sent their results to Wheatstone. And he was able to make images like this. Beautiful, the first stereoscopic images photographic in the world. And you can see these were taken sequentially because the photograph shows the shadows right in front of you in slightly different places. The sun's moved a little bit between these two exposures. There's another one here. Again, a very, very early photograph in stereoscopic 3D. I'm moving pretty quickly now. There's another man came along called David Brewster who actually claimed to have invented the stereoscope. So you can see fake news was alive even then. And to his dying day, he tried to discredit Wheatstone from his invention. But what Brewster did was popularize a different form of the stereoscope, which is very compact. And this compact form of the stereoscope took the world by storm. It was able to put stereoscopy into everyone's homes. There was no TV in there. There was no internet. There's no films. So the way they were able to see the pyramids and rice planting in China for the first time, temples in India, Aztec temples or whatever, they saw it through their stereoscopes. And in 1858, the London Stereoscopic Society boasted 1 million stereoscopic views for sale, very much like the one that you see in the foreground. That little card goes into the back, slides into the back of the stereo viewer, and the world was your oyster. So this is 19th century technology. But you know what? It's still the best form of stereoscopic technology, and that's what I use, and that's what I've used for the last 15 years or so to take stereoscopic imaging into a new world, the world of the 21st century. Okay, I'm still in the 1850s now. This is the work of T.R. Williams, and he starts to take stereoscopic photography very seriously. He's making stereoscopic art for its own sake. This beautiful view called Mortality was set up very carefully, and he photographed it dozens of times, slightly different ways, and it was commercial. It seems like he wasn't really a commercial artist per se, but people loved it, and people flocked to buy this image and take it home. It's the stereoscopic daguerreotype, one of the most beautiful objects you could ever come across. Very rare these days, but here we have it digitized so you can enjoy it. So this is a kind of comment on mortality and vanitas, as it's sometimes called. I'm going to stay with T.R. Williams. Here's another example of his work, kind of old curiosity shop here. Exquisite detail, exquisite composition, exquisite depth. He's painting pictures using his cameras in 3 dimensions instead of 2. He also documented the village where he grew up. This is Scenes in Our Village. And this is a great part of stereoscopic history. The first time that a village was ever documented in 3D, and there are poems on the back always telling you what you're seeing in the picture and telling you the hopes and dreams of these people. I was able to find this church about 15 years ago and locate where the village was. So Scenes in Our Village now has a meaning, and we're setting up a stereoscope inside this church now so that the people who live there can see their own history, which for 150 years was hidden. Here's another few. I'm just spinning through T.R. Williams. These are some of his Scenes in Our Village. Spinning wheel, technology which is now lost. This is reapers in the field, all beautiful stuff. And T.R. Williams also made a huge step. He made a step towards films as we know them today, because this, on the face of it, I mean, I can show you him. I'm going to show you him. Here's T.R. Williams himself. This is a self-portrait. So selfies are not new either, okay? I'm going to spin through these. These are what happened in the 1850s. Crinoline, the sensation, captured in the stereoscope. An amazing world of diableries, little devils made in clay models and immortalized in 3D. Diableries, we have a book on that as well. These are exquisite. These are French. Wonderful things. And in the 1900s, you have a resurgence. I'm going to spin very quickly through here. Some nice keystone views. In the 50s, we got coming at you films. So you all seen films with stupid things happening. But of course, later on, we got Avatar, which was a really classy bit of gear. This is how I first encountered stereoscopy. Weetabix stereo viewer, and I made my own pictures for it many years ago. This is the first picture I ever saw. This is my own London Stereoscopic Company owl, and I'm hoping that a lot of you have used it to look at this transmission. If not, let's do it again sometime. Have a very new, this is another book that we published. This is the Mission Moon 3D. A lot of people have seen Buzz Aldrin in this picture, but they haven't seen him in 3D. And this is Charlie Duke on the moon. But I'm wrapping up now. This is my new invention, the Steampunk Light Owl, which has gone very well, just launched last week. And through it, you can see all the wonders of the stereoscope and all the books that we published, all the cars we published. I'm just going to finish with this image. This is from Queen in 3D. And there's a special reason, because today is the reason. The day is not a day that I celebrate, but it's the day that we lost Freddie. So it's a day to sort of pay my respects. And we love Freddie very much. Here's the book. So I think I'm back with you now, and we're ready for questions.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you, Brian. Yeah. And you've really spoiled us by showing us so many images. So thanks so much for that. And we've got loads of questions coming in from the audience as well. One asks, if you could travel to any part of the solar system, or I suppose the universe, to create a 3D image, where would you go?
I'd probably go to Rosetta's Comet. I'd love to actually stand on the little bridge between those two great big lumps. That would be something amazing. Yeah, that would be an amazing. And of course, you would be standing around the material which is being pushed out into space. It's boiling off that amazing object to make the trails. We see these beautiful trails when we see comets in the sky. They all come from gases and dust which are pushed out from under the surface of that amazing rock. That's a comet. So that's where I go.
Excellent.
And hopefully Bruce Willis would come with me in case there's any problems of it hitting the Earth, okay?
I think you'd make a great team. And what's your favourite stereoscopic 3D picture? Any rock, planet, landscape? Which is your favourite? Or is that like asking you to choose between children or pets or something?
It's very hard. I have one picture of the young Princess Victoria, Queen Victoria's daughter, Princess Vicky, and it's the only one of its kind as far as I know, and it was in the royal family's possession for a long time. Somehow it came into my hands because it was sold off at some point, and it's a beautiful, beautiful image. It takes you there. I mean, photography is good for capturing your friends and your relatives, and a lot of us have pictures of our mums and dads after they've gone from us. If you have 3D pictures of them, boy, you feel so close to them because it's like you could walk in and talk to them. The portraits in 3D are something wonderful, and if you're looking at the future of 3D, it's very easy to use this and a little app called i3D Steroid. You can take your own pictures. You just go click, click, and put the two together in i3D Steroid, which you can go to the London Stereoscopic Company website and you'll see that. But then you have pictures of your family, your kids, your mums and dads, immortalized forever in 3D, and it's like you could talk to them. It's something really wonderful.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us, Brian, and thanks for sharing. Your enthusiasm for 3D is truly infectious, so I'm sure lots of people are going to go away and look more into it as well. Thanks a lot for joining us.